First, you want to write peak experiences. Now, the peak experience could be a movement that you finally got, that you conquered, but it could also be a sensation in your body that you experienced, because it is an exercise. You are stimulating the hormones and adrenaline in your body, and you do have, you're using your muscles, so all of the normal endorphin releases that you might get with this, but there's also the neuroplasticity that you're expanding through all this bilateral coordination that you're doing. So there may be just moments where you have these peak experiences, and you may want to notate and remember them. You may also similarly want to remember, the duality of it. If that's the heads, the tails might be, the obstacles, the challenges, and the things that you'd like to work through. So like resistance that arises when you're in the practice, or resistance that arises that getting you to the practice. Like today, we're addressing maybe the tails side of the coin, the things that kept you from actually getting on the mat, and how we're going to take those obstacles out of the way moving forward, right? Then you also might want to notate questions, like things that you have as a question, so that the next time, so that it doesn't linger in your brain, and you can let it go, and you just write it down, like things you want to ask me in our next session, right? Similarly, things that you were inspired by that you want to notate, like, I saw this video, like that video that you sent me or you commented on, where you said you really want to learn that move, and I said that's great, although maybe not the best place to start. So saving links, like you might want to make a playlist of moves that you want to learn so that you have longer term goals, because this is the thing about poi is it's not a fast food meal. This is a 7-course meal that happens repeatedly over years. That like you're watching somebody who's been in their practice over 24 years. So it takes time, and you have to look at this as a journey, not a destination, and be in the experience moment to moment to moment. And I invite you to do in your journal, notate the milestones, because there's nothing quite like you'll never be as shitty at poi as you are right now. Like you just won't. Every moment from now on, you'll learn more, you'll have more distinctions, and you will become increasingly less like a muggle and more like a master, right? This is a journey from muggles to mastery, and in that process, there's sort of an unfolding and a demystification, and you're taking away all of these things that look like magic, and suddenly they're not so magical because you're doing them. You're like, oh, well, maybe I'm just a magician, right? Maybe it wasn't magic, or maybe I'm a magician. Either way, you want to really keep in that process of that journey and notate the things along the way that you accomplish, so that a year from now you can look back and you can say, oh, wow, I didn't realize how far I'd come. It's very easy to lose sight when you're in the journey of how far you've progressed. It's just like when you're climbing, like when you're walking down the road. If you don't take time to look back behind you, you don't necessarily notice how far you've walked, right? Or you're climbing a mountain, and if you're only looking at the peak, you don't necessarily notice how far down base camp was. There's a process that you want to be documenting for yourself, so that you have an objectivity later, and you have a way of tracking your own experience video is a great thing, but there's the mental and emotional and spiritual, and then there's all these, like, you are looking for very specific tools to help you regulate yourself, right? Self-regulation, notating how it's affected your sense of self, your sense of your self-regulation, your discipline, your level of intensity, your level of distraction. Like if you start tracking it, you can have, you will be the consistent factor throughout because you're tracking it, and there will be a bias, but it at least will be your bias consistently through time. So if you track that, you'll have a sense of what it really did for you or didn't do for you. Let's be honest, some days it may just bring you frustration, and that's okay too, because we need the frustration to be a driver. Ultimately, move away from strategies are things that have us make change, but move toward strategies are things that have us keep in a direction, right? Moving away from a certain behavior is how we get started, but you could go anywhere when you're moving away from this thing, right? You could go anywhere. What you also need is a move toward strategy. I want to get here, right? So it's both. I want to move away from this, but I specifically want to go here, not here, not here, not here, not here, not here, here, right? And have some sense of what that is. And by notating what is the goal on the journey and seeing the winding path and all the pit stops and the ups and the downs and the winds and everything, that helps, just as long as you're understanding that you're on the trajectory to whatever the place is you're trying to go. And being clear is you have to know what you want in order to get there. Oh, and also it's super cool to find out your goals can change as you go, because guess what? That's just like life. I mean, Poi is really just, you know how it is, a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosm around us. It's just a really great visceral way to experience it, because you're getting flopped around with balls, and you know, it's kind of like when life throws you curveballs and it hits you right in the face. How do you take it? Do you laugh at it? Do you smile? Do you like fall to the ground? Do you act defeated? All of these things are just a practice for the journey to get to the destination, in my experience. Your mileage may vary.